Oh, that can cracks.
That, yeah.
Like, that is a universal sound.
I'm Mike Wolf, here with Kenneth, Dedmon, and Paul Vaughn.
Where the seeds are sowing and the beer is flowing. Welcome back to a very special edition of Liquid Gold right here on WeOwnThisTown.net, the We Own This Town podcast network. I'm your host today, Mike Wolf, along with my co-host
Kenneth Dedmon.
In fine voice today, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. And we are joined by Nashville Brewery, Bearded Iris' co-founder,
Paul Vaughn.
Mr. Paul Vaughn, back in studio. Great to have you back. And you're so much more...
Wait, sorry.
He's so comfortable this time around, too.
Co-founder or founder? We'll just call you founder.
Co-founder, yeah.
Founder.
Co-founder.
Takes a lot of hats to make the beer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's so great to have you back, Paul, in studio, hot on the heels of our Nocino Shots episode. We got to sit back on a Monday afternoon and drink Nocino. That was amazing. How's the Nocino drinking been going in the house?
It's been good, just a little bit here and there. So a little nightcap.
Yeah, winded down after dinner, after a nice big plate of pasta maybe.
Definitely, yeah.
Some ramen.
Gonna have to try it with ramen now that Black Dynasty's open. So
Paul, co-founder of Bearded Iris, and Bearded Iris is growing and has the new location over at Sylvan Supply on Charlotte. It's 4101 Charlotte Avenue, and you've got some new food going on there. The Black Dynasty ramen folks have set up shop there. And what kinds of crazy offerings are those guys doing?
Everything coming from Chef Bruni's mind. There's going to be ramen bowls, sandwiches, some little bar snacks coming as they grow. Kind of feeling it out through the growth and kind of the neighborhood. So
that's
awesome.
Great. And y'all open back on Halloween?
We've been open. The Sylvan Supply has been our spot over there has been open since the mask mandate really lifted. Kind of a little bit after that, we did some soft opens and then rolled right into it. And then, they just launched last night for the ramen. So there's a little kitchen in the back and a food window. So.
Nice.
Killer.
Yeah.
Are you doing any are you doing a bunch of brewing over there at the Sylvan Supply?
So Sylvan's our R&D spot.
Yeah.
So it's a smaller brew house, 7-barrel system. With a focus on lagers. So if you come check it out, we have 6 horizontal lager tanks right behind the bar. Kind of a similar vibe when you come into our Germantown spot. Mm-hmm. You walk in, you can see that the beer is made right there. Yeah. We wanted a similar feel, a little more moody, a little more closer connection. Mm-hmm. So right when you walk in Sylvan Supply, the brewery's right in front of you. Again.
Awesome.
So, and then that carries you over to where your beer is served from the bar, right from the tanks.
Well, I wanted to start, too, talking about, we're sitting here on a beautiful autumn day, and we're drinking a pitcher of beer. We're splitting a pitcher of beer, which you don't see as much anymore. It's part of all of our drinking history, I think. Kenneth and I, and Paul, I know yours, too. But talk to us a little bit about what was important about the pitcher to you, and how the pitcher is like kind of a symbol of how you like to share beer, how you enjoy beer, but it was an important thing for the founding of Bearded Iris. So, and I found that really interesting when we were talking about that the other day. So tell me a little bit about what's behind that.
We all know pitchers very well, but kind of the idea when we were coming together, trying to figure out, what Bearded Iris would be, what kind of beers we were making. We always looked at like a pitcher being on the table, being very communal, bringing people together. Generally, if you drink through a pitcher of beer, that's a good beer. If you're not trying to force your way through it. But if if you enjoyed that pitcher of beer, that's a good beer. Yeah. It was probably a really great conversation, really easy, just really a positive time with friends around a table. So we really like that aspect of it. You wouldn't necessarily drink a pitcher of something crazy high alcohol. You'd have smaller pours of that. But if you're pouring pints, a pitcher kind of is like built for the table and the people around it. So we just wanted to bring that easiness into the styles of beer we were making. So very, very balanced, very nuanced, easy to drink a pitcher of.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some of that nuance that comes through with the balance of the hops, and we're talking today all about the balance of bitterness and sweetness and how that plays into so many different aspects of beverage. Non-alcoholic beverages, cocktails, spirits, wine, beer especially. But can you tell me a little bit about, just because I know that you're passionate about food and you know a lot about wine. You know a lot about spirits. I would say you're more knowledgeable about that stuff than most brewers, and you're more passionate about that side of it. You're kind of a worldly guy.
I like drinks.
Yeah, you're our kind of guy.
Yeah.
Is that how you arrived at the place of these balanced and kind of nuanced beers? Because when I first tried, you brought some in to Husk. You had kind of early batches of what was going on, the home style, I think. And what was the hoppy one that we really wanted to get, but it was like hard to get it right at the beginning?
Right when we opened,
Yeah.
would have been Habit.
Yeah. That was special.
Yeah.
And it was like, damn, what is this? We need this. Yeah, tell me a little bit about how those beers came to be, how those like early beers came to be, because they were special for a lot of people, because around here we hadn't tried a whole lot of that hop nuance and really that like perfect marriage of sweet and bitter. So tell me about how you got there.
I think, it's just over the course of learning and opening a brewery, we really learned a lot, and our team really helped us grow a lot to where, we made different styles of beers when we first opened in Nashville. And what really started resonating people, though, that we, noticed was our hoppy beers. And so we kind of started leaning more into those. Mm-hmm. One of my business partners, Matt Miller, was really wanting to lean in, like really enjoyed the New England style, like that softness, that balanced, a little more sweetness, kind of less West Coast bitterness, and really wanted to lean into that and give it a try. And home style is the one that really kind of put us on the map. People started paying attention a little bit more. It's the first beer we canned, so we were able to access an audience. Had a little bit more depth to it than just draft beer at the time, being a new brewery.
And that's what we're drinking now. We're drinking the home style.
Home style.
Which has been a cocktailable beer as well. A lot of people around town have made cocktails with it. It's got like a grapefruit, almost Campari kind of friend. It's a friend to Campari. It's a friend to different drinks. People have used it to top off a lot of really cool cocktails. Scott Seufer is one who loves it in cocktails and has made some really great cocktails with it. It has that lovely citrus note to it. But so you guys got known for this nuanced style of New England style hop IPAs. So when you come onto the scene in Nashville, and those of us who tried it initially, we were trying early batches, and people are getting excited, because I would have gotten excited if I had known you. Curtis introduced us, and it was like, oh yeah, this guy's great. making a really nuanced beer like that, and sort of, being part of the change in Nashville to thinking of Nashville as more of a beer town. And so we've had Southern Grist on the program. They were on our very first show. We talked about hop sourcing. We talked about some of those, so like the way that they think of hops and how they treat them and how they're looking for different varieties. Was that what it was, or what else was it? Is it like you just had good sources for hops and you're thinking about the ingredients? Better ingredients makes a better beer.
Having those ingredients, so sourcing of ingredients, we do not grow the ingredients ourselves, so you have to pay attention and really focus on the details in a different level through sourcing, or which farms are growing the best hops, or your barley, or what we even have access to. So we always looked at trying to grow our sourcing from the very beginning. So working with high quality maltsters and trying to get our hop contracts up so that we could source, keep digging in at trying to get the best hops that are being grown in the world.
Yeah, and when you say get the contracts up, that means you ordering a certain amount and kind of being like, we're going to be here for you. We want this relationship.
Yeah. So when you buy a certain amount of hops, you have access to picking through lots. Mm-hmm. So you can buy a lot from this farm or buy a lot from that farm, or you can blend lots depending on your volume of hops that you go through in a year. Mm-hmm. So kind of over the years, we've been able to have more access to hops and hand select. And in the very beginning, we were happy to just experiment with hops. There are a lot of new hops coming out then, to where it was exciting to get in these new varieties and really just try and find and showcase what that hop is good for, or notes that we could bring out in that hop. And then having a sweet, malt backbone or sweet base to balance that on, but really showcase the aromatics, the flavor and aroma of those hops. I think was really where our brains were coming together to create a really nice, nuanced, flavorful product.
Yeah, killer. Well, and you're far from, a one-trick pony or even four-trick pony. You do all these different styles now. You've got this huge breadth of, amazing stouts. Because when I was at Kuchny and Keller, great beer hall in Germantown, and we had amazing beers coming in from all over the world. And there would still be times where, we'd get a special keg from you guys that would come from down the street, and we'd be like, this is still the best thing we have on the menu. This is still the best. We think this is, one of, or if not the best beer that we have. And I always thought that was so fascinating because we were working on getting like a Pilsner from Italy. It's like, we can just get that Tipo Pils keg and we'd get it in, we'd be really excited. But then we get something just as good or just as exciting right down the street. And that was fascinating to me. Tell me about growing the brewery and getting into stouts and eventually making that Pep Talk Pilsner, which is one of my favorites that you make. I love that one. That one went fast the other night when we were passing them out at the end of shift.
Yeah.
That one went
shift
fast.
beer.
Yeah, for sure. It's like Gatorade, for restaurant workers. But tell me about growing it and getting into these different styles. Like, is that something, were you always into all the different styles of beer, or how did it, like, it widened out so much? It was really impressive to me that it was like,
wait,
look at all these stouts they're making.
I want to speculate first.
Yeah, speculate.
Did you get sick of that guy that would come up to you, say like in the tap room or something like that, and he was like, "You're the owner, right? I don't like hops." Like I would get sick of that guy over and over every day telling me how much he doesn't like hops, that I would make a beer and for him but disguise it as something else.
Yeah.
I think we say a lot, we kind of, when people don't like hops, we say, well, try some of our hoppy beers. What people don't like, or it's kind of a split coin. People really like bitter beers, or they really do not like bitter beers. Is majority, I would say, would be like a good split of IPA drinkers.
True.
So generally, somebody coming in saying they don't like hops, a lot of the time is the bitterness of the hops. And so if we can kind of, part of that education is showing them the flavor and aroma of the hops. You could ask them, do you like citrus? Do you like sweet tea? And kind of more of those nuanced, or fruit tea, more of those nuanced things. You can then give them something that is totally new to them. And then they say, oh, I'm going to be back for another IPA.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about the education side. Still hoppy beers or New England style IPAs or all the other IPAs that are being produced right now is still some parts are very new for being an old style of beer that's covered all of the world. But as far as how hop farms are creating more fruit-forward, citrusy, oily products for brewers to innovate with, that's really changed people's palates and what could be possible. So we've really looked at that feedback loop. We have ideas of what we like to drink. Pep Talk Pils or Lager is definitely one of those for a shift beer.
Yeah.
But kind of that feedback loop of what consumers are also enjoying and they want to drink from us. And so we can match that and marry that to where we are still innovating, getting to play and have R&D and have some fun stuff come out and learn on our side of things too.
Yeah. It seems like people, who aren't brewers say stupid things like, oh, well, that's how you know if someone can brew beer is how they brew a Pilsner. Do you view it that way? Like, do you look at the Pilsners that people make and you're looking to see, like, how much, and quantify for us a little bit, like, what that is? Like, is it, how nuanced can you be? How serious are you about the water? How, what is it about that kind of magic of a great Pilsner? Because I was having a conversation when I handed one of those off to somebody, and he was way into Pilsners. He was new to Nashville. He'd never tried it. So I was like, oh, you're in good hands. And we talked about some of the Pilsners that we like. And it's interesting how different they can be in such a simple beer. So how do you view that? And do you think that it is a really nice showcase for what a brewer can do?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it is a very simple beer. And a lot of the simplest beers are some of the greatest examples of beers in the world. They're very, very simple, just executed properly and dialed in. I think with, Pilsners and different lagers, there's not a lot to hide behind.
Yeah.
And so everything is kind of up front. And with them, you kind of want to round the edges. So everything's in its place.
Yeah.
Kind of similar. We think of Pilsners like we think of IPAs, everything balanced throughout it,
Yeah.
And if something's out of balance, how do you slide that scale to get it back in balance? So that's kind of the whole experimentation of creating beer, is getting to learn as you grow with new ingredients, new styles.
With something with fewer ingredients like that, I could see it being more difficult. But is it when you're brewing an IPA, you can maybe alter the hop character in one way if you're not getting what you want, or if it's like tea that got over extracted, you can add more water or kind of, make a bigger batch if you need to. But is Pilsner a little bit more difficult in that, if you mess something up, it's hard to recover? Or
I would say it's equally difficult.
Yeah.
I would say they're equally hard. They take different levels of time. They use different yeast. So it's just working with that yeast differently. So equally as hard to kind of walk that line and balance it out.
And what are these experiments like that you're doing at the new location, Sylvan Supply, 4101 Charlotte? They got the Black Dynasty ramen rolling. It's all happening over there. It's all going down. West Nashville, the return of West Nashville. Yep. Sorry, fuck you.
Was that their slogan?
I don't know. I just old Nashville.
West Nashville's new slogan. Yeah, fuck you.
But yeah, tell me about like what those experiments are like. You're experimenting with lagers, different method.
We wanted a place to where we could have a little bit more freedom, less constraints on batch size and ingredient sourcing, kind of with the world is growing for sourcing ingredients and freight, but also just somewhere where we could really play and experiment, not on the same scale that we do have for our production facility. But that also opened the door for collaborations and smaller partnerships, more community focused. But really the biggest idea was a place for lager or a Pilsner. So having a little bit more time in the space and the turnover to really just let lagers relax and do their thing and chill.
Is there
have it served directly at that source. So what we have over at Sylvan Supply is beers from here and beers from there. So all the beers from here are made at Sylvan Supply and only available there. Where beers from there are made at Germantown, and we also package cans and kegs, and you can see them throughout the markets that we work with.
Yeah, cool.
We went a place that was very much in the community. The experience was being there.
Can you real quick? You referenced freight and sourcing during these times currently. Can you give us a current update on are you sourcing like more American products possibly, or does that matter?
I think it's just people are sourcing a lot now. The world is opening back up safely, and I believe that it's just like kind of turned all back on all at once.
Yeah.
So it's always been busy. I think it's more people are more aware of it now. The freight companies and logistics companies have been busy through the whole pandemic, as far as I understand. Our team grew during the pandemic, so we were definitely sourcing a lot of ingredients and malt and barley and hops. And I believe that's just the world coming back online.
Yeah, all at once.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah. You had mentioned a little bit about the lagers, like you're like, I just want to let them chill. I want to let them settle. Is there something about that to a lager that's really important? Is it like, oh, I'd love for that to sit there for a certain amount of time, but business sense dictates maybe I shouldn't do that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's definitely time is a consideration with all the beers. They need time to condition and really almost when we're talking Nocino.
Yeah.
They need time to sit and marry together. It's not just instant. And
right.
So we are working with beer, a product with yeast. So yeast picks up certain ingredients, absorbs them, continues to ferment out, depending on different temps, slowly or fast. And so with lagers, it's all slow and low. So you want it to slowly ferment, condition cold, and so that's how you get that crispiness, that cleanness, if all the details were there.
Cool. So it's almost like brisket. It's like
Slow and low.
there's no way you're going to get this brisket in 3 hours. It's just not going to happen.
Some things you can't rush.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So that's what lager is. It's the brisket of the beer world. That's why they two go so well together, maybe. Or cooking a brisket goes well with drinking lager. I will say. I know that.
I would agree.
It's the slow and low beer. It's the beer to not rush. But there's some other styles of Pilsner that kind of that inspire you. So tell me about that.
Czech dark lagers.
Yeah.
So we've done a collaboration with Threes in Brooklyn for a few years now, to where we take oyster shells and use them in the beer to create a minerality to add almost like a blue collar burgundy.
Wow.
Being brewers, we can't pick that up from the soil necessarily. So what's a way where we can get minerality, just like modifying your water profile with different salts. Oyster shells do that as well in the beer. And so we brew a Pilsner with oyster shells up at their brewery, and then we started kind of the yin and yang, and we do a Czech dark lager at our brewery. And so with that, there's darker malts in there, but it's still cold, still conditioning, still slow and low. And we use those oyster shells to add this minerality, which is just another one of those pieces on that sliding scale.
I dig that.
That allows you to kind of adjust your sweetness or your bitterness. And so it's just another layer, just like water profile modification. But whenever it starts conditioning out, there is this note that we always get that's almost like Coca-Cola Classic. When you smell it, and I think that's just one of those where you get dark, like sugar, but bitterness, higher carbonation. It's kind of like the perfect storm of things coming together.
Yeah.
It throws off and balances that. But yeah, we always
That's amazing.
We're always like, it's kind of like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's great. Because Coca-Cola is this, and that's something that you and I have talked about off mic and talking a little bit at Audrey. I had you try the Coca-Cola that I was making there, or the cola syrup. And so I've done a lot of research myself. Coca-Cola was basically started in Atlanta.
That's where the players play.
Yeah, Coca-Cola started in Atlanta, late 1880s. A guy named Dr. John Stith Pemberton, local pharmacist. He produced the first syrup, and he was feverishly, if you've ever seen the Drunk History episode of Coca-Cola, really good. Really good. He's just like a wild man cooking wine with cocaine and just like going out of his mind. But basically, what was all of a sudden not available is French fortified wine called Vin Mariani. Vin Mariani was a coca wine and patent medicine created in the 1860s by a guy named Angelo Mariani. He was a French chemist. He's like the French doppelganger for this dude Pemberton in Atlanta. Well, he became quite intrigued how Coca-Cola, or how Coca and its medicinal and economic potential, after reading about the effects that Coca had on people. He began making and marketing this Coca wine called Vin Tonique Mariani, which was made from Bordeaux wine and coca leaves. And so this was similar to what Pemberton was making, but the reason that Dr. Pemberton wanted to make this Coca-Cola was because they stopped importing the Vin Mariani to Atlanta. So it was like people in Atlanta, it was basically like if they were like, sorry, Red Bull's not available, or any energy drinks, they're gone. Some local dude would be like, oh my God, I need to start making this. I'm addicted to it. And so that's kind of what happened. And Mariani had upped the cocaine level because it was like becoming this arms race where people were like, I don't know, it's a little better with like 7 milligrams. And he was like, well, I do it 6 in France. It seems fine. Nope. Now that you're shipping into America, you got to up it. And this is the early 80s.
It's like up the cocaine, Monoro.
And so once that was not readily available in Atlanta, it led to Coca-Cola being created. Just incredible. So I had done some research and looking at old ingredients, and I think what was fascinating to me about Coca-Cola was it was like this marriage of citrus and spice with a few things coming up the middle to like confuse everything. So it had the orange oil, lemon oil, lime, and lime juice on one side, and then the spices being like a cinnamon, cola nut, which I use some sarsaparilla to get some vanilla flavor. I used a little bit of clove and star anise, And but it was coriander was one of the key ingredients to me. Coriander was something that kind of confused it all. So I wonder if that's like the oyster shells for you, giving some kind of minerality. But in terms of experimenting with liquid and making different things, was the oyster shell like giving you a mineral? You talked about like messing around with mineral salts. Do you do that with your water at Bearded Iris?
We modify our water.
Yeah. And so was there something, did you like actually, is there a lab that like you're noticing that the oyster shells are giving you this particular salt? Like, is it that crazy, or can you not, you can't talk?
When you taste the product, when you throw 100 pounds of oyster shells into a batch of beer, it definitely has an impact on how that presents on your palate.
It's incredible. Is this common? I don't know about other places using like a ton of oyster shell
People have
action.
used them in oyster stouts.
Yeah.
They've used them across the board. You know, if you have more access to oysters, there's a good chance you've used them.
I was down in Apalachicola recently where there's oysters that, like, they kind of make up the parking lot a lot of times. You're just walking on like old oyster shells, or they fortify the concrete with oyster shells. But there's Oyster City down there, and they make some really nice beers. I feel like they've messed with oyster shells before, but this is super interesting to me that this could be a really, if it's adding something similar that those mineral salts are adding, then it's a huge thing. It's giving you a lot. It's giving you
a little goes a long way.
Yeah,
when you
okay.
start playing with water and how that displays. You know, if you take 4 glasses of water, you put a drop of, let's say, lemon juice in one, 2 in the other, 3 in 4, or you take oyster shells and leave them in water. That water is going to obviously sit totally different. Even if the oyster shells were really clean and you weren't getting C notes, just leaving that in the water, you're going to get that breakdown of the oyster shells. And those will display very different.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So
Is this the kind of stuff that you obsess over day in and day out?
Just drinks in general.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be informed from other types of alcohol when you make alcohol. You know, what is the wine industry doing, or what can you learn from that would inform your palate of how you could innovate or change a beer? Or, you know, what can they learn from beer that they could do with wine, maybe lower alcohol? Or, you know, I just think being cognizant of everything being produced is, you know, it helps inform how to be a maker or how to influence a product in a way that is different or new or fun, or just, you know, little details.
Yeah, or just better.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the balance of sweetness and bitterness, is it more intuition for you? Is it more like, okay, I'm like working with my palate and my brain? Or are you looking at bricks? Are you looking at like there's a number that you like?
I think
are you basing it more off feel? Because I feel like one of the things that's really interesting about you guys is there's a lot of like creative inspiration. There's a lot of like brewing this for us because we think it's cool. But then there's also some sort of nuance and some sort of mastery of balance that I feel like might come a little bit on a technical side. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But how do you kind of pull all those things together?
from a team.
Yeah.
So it's all the minds coming together to really balance that out. You know, if we all sit and taste even this home style, you know, how does it display to you? There's going to be some underlying notes, but also everybody's palate is different. What you're coming in and drinking, you know, what did you drink before you had this beer? That all affects things. But I think our team is just, we're all looking at how to have a really soft, palatable drinking experience. And so sugar is a big piece of that, of how it sits on your palate. Mm-hmm. And it's tasting. You know, we have our styles and things we've learned over the years and that our team has really dialed in. And I think it's just kind of that informs the next step. Tasting, sensory. So mm-hmm. we taste all of our products. We have a sensory team. So we're always constantly watching QC, tasting our products, staying dialed in on aroma validations, mm-hmm. so that we can sit together and describe what we're experiencing and tasting and be on the same wavelength and continue to inform how our products are made as a team.
Yeah, well, we can't let that just go by. Let's talk about aroma validation, because I love that. Because aroma is so much of it. And we talk about it in the cocktail world. You know, aroma's huge, and when you can add a little bit of aroma, that's a lot of what the garnish is about, or you're spritzing a tincture on top, or you're spritzing an oil, you're working on something. You know, I worked on a aromatic tincture that's based on a lot of the old soda shop styles where you're just trying to give aroma to the top of the glass. And so you're concentrating as much ingredients into a tincture and giving that that similar kind of unmistakable Coca-Cola Angostura type thing that you're like, I don't know what that is, but it's a mixture of stuff that like makes me happy and makes me feel warm. But tell me about aroma validation and what you're doing there and how aroma plays into it, because that's fascinating to me, and that's a huge part of beverage.
I think it's just a big part of, making sure your feet are underneath you. And when you say strawberry, are you smelling strawberry, or is there some romanticism behind that, or some place or memory to where that's coming back to you? Or?
So that's all of you talking as a team, and you're like, I need to know because,
You'll sit down and, you can blind things or smell strawberries and just, or if you're going in a grocery store, I think on like a home level, like sometimes get some different fruits, smell them, taste them, like that's all going to inform your palate, experience the world, right? So just, but aroma validation would be more just like locking in those aromas and revisiting them so that when you can describe them as a team, everybody's saying the same things to communicate in an accurate way so that you're not lost in we're all saying the same thing, but we can't communicate. So being able to communicate to change a product is very important. It's just kind of staying up to date, keeping your mind sharp, seeing how strawberries are smelling now.
Yeah. So any of the things that that you're thinking about just in everyday life, like nocino, as we talked about on the Shots episode, you have this beautiful nocino that you made at home that we loved. Coca-Cola, and we've talked about that, and I feel like we're on the similar wavelength there, where it's like this search for a mysterious harmony of things. And for me, it was like I had it, and then when I was like, I gotta let some of the zest and the spices sit overnight. When I did that, more sarsaparilla came through in a way that I was like, I had it. I caught lightning for a second, and then I kind of lost it. So now I'm like trying to catch it again and trying to find that mystery. But so how do you take those things that are like in your life, do those make it into like a stout? Or have you ever thought about, I'm going to make a nocino stout, or I'm going to fuck around with like cola nut for a lager or thing? Like do some of those things make it in there? Or are you sort of like, I'm trying not to be too whimsical? Because whimsy is a big part of beer now.
We all put in different ideas. We constantly have new beers coming out. And so when people have ideas of their favorite desserts or something they had or a coffee drink they had or, a fruit combo or a smoothie, we're always around each other working. And so that informs kind of just the general consciousness of how we're thinking about beers and new flavors. And, it really takes the team coming together to wrap your head around that many flavors and new styles to create. So I think we look at it as sometimes seasonal, what would be good for the holidays, and sometimes it's just like, man, I had this really good drink. What if we could do something or a riff on that? And
it just snowballs from there. Yeah. Cool. That sounds.
There's
like
a lot
of
good
part.
idea. There's a lot of good ideas in the teams. Everybody's very food and bev, so they enjoy food, enjoy drinks, and so it's easy conversation with everybody about those things. And so sometimes it's the simplest thing that sparks an idea in somebody's mind. It's like somebody's like, oh, we should make that, and then Brandon, our head brewer, and everybody comes together and really dives in on it and tries to make our best version that we can.
Has there ever been a as I'm getting to this other beer, we're gonna try some Attention Please, a double IPA here from Bearded Iris,
Kicking up the alcohol a little bit.
Yeah,
8.2%.
Yeah, well, it's happy hour now.
Home style was 6, so we started slow. Well, I guess we started high then low.
There we go. Have there been some, as I get this into a pitcher, we're all going to enjoy a little bit of this in the pitcher, as we've been talking about. Have there been some experiments where you're like, not quite, guys? Or, like, is there like a pizza stout that didn't work? Is there a ramen noodle IPA that didn't quite get,
We've definitely, dialed in our beers over the years, and I think overall we've had some fun experiments that did work. And you wouldn't see experiments that didn't work.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's
right. We wouldn't see them. But
overall,
you've probably seen them.
We really have to trust our systems and our process and our teams, and so we believe in the beers that we're making. And so we actually did a beer with Christie's cookies, and we added cookies to the mash tun But we went and tasted with Chrissy's Cookies and got to try, like brownie edges and all this crazy stuff, looking at the products that they make. It's like, well, man, we didn't make a brownie edge stout, but that's
a great idea,
like just.
Oh yeah, what are they doing with the brownie edges? Are they just like, we need to figure out something to do with this, or they compost them?
I don't know what they're doing now.
They
compost them,
like a murder of crows on the roof.
Yeah.
Halloween already happened, bro.
But it's, just that tasted like a chocolate chip cookie. So that's one of those crazy ideas where people came up with it and it worked. And so you really want that to happen every time, right? But you also have to constantly push the boundaries and question if you can make those things. If you were to have like a coffee drink, we like using coffee and coconut a lot to where your pastry stouts, as you're talking, to where it tastes like a dessert. And you need a lot of sweetness for a dessert like that, but with the sweetness you can balance a lot on that.
Uh-huh.
So you can have more adjuncts, a lot more cinnamon, a lot more coconut, and so to really bring those flavors out.
Cool.
There we go.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Some nice sound effects in there. Thanks to Darren, our key grip. So when you're thinking about coffee and you have to think about hops a lot, what's your scope of ingredient collection? Like, are you like, yeah, there's these hops in Michigan we love, we got to get those down here. There's these hops in Washington State, they're perfect, that's my guy, he knows that those are for me. I got my guy down in California, I got my buddy down here in Alabama that does coffee. Like, what's your scope? Is it worldwide? Is there a guy in Russia who's got some hops? Because we've heard about these Russians with hops.
There's different.
I don't want to mention any names.
There's different vanillas, that grow around the world, and so they all have their own expression. And so when you're making, something like a pastry stout, what coconut you're using? Is it toasted? Is it raw? Is it sweetened? I think just the sourcing of ingredients would be, there's so many great ingredients around the world. It's just, can we get them to use them in a product?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're always trying to do, is find those fun ingredients. And then sometimes you find ingredients and that informs on like, well, if we did something with this, because this is a really cool ingredient. There's some great apples growing here. Let's use those apples.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then build something from there or build back.
So that's fun stuff to me, because in making vermouth, it was like we would try to get a certain kind of dried rhubarb. And if we got it from, whoever on Amazon and got it in, it was just like, that was kind of disappointing. But then, you hook up with a small farm on Etsy.
You get that real rhubarb.
Yeah. And you hook up a little small farm on Etsy. They've got this much. This is all they're going to have this year. And it's a huge difference. So I feel like people don't understand how important that is. And maintaining that is probably a lot of what you do day in and day out. You're like, yeah, don't remind me.
Sourcing is a big part of a brewery.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's constantly shipping and receiving constantly.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of raw inputs to make the beer that's in your glass.
Yeah.
So
killer. Well, tell us about this beer that's in our glass. This is called Attention Please, and this is this on the newer side for you guys?
So this is more OG for us.
Okay.
So this is a Attention Please. It's an all Citra Double IPA, New England style hazy IPA.
It is lovely hazy. So this color in our glass is gold, I would say. It's literalism here on liquid gold.
Yeah, it looks like fruit tea.
Right, and we mentioned fruit tea earlier. That's kind of a lost beverage of Nashville, because that was like, you go to the Sunset Grill, get a nice fruit tea with
Back
your
in
lunch.
the day,
Yeah, everywhere had to have fruit tea.
You got an Arnold Palmer. You got some fruit tea.
What happened to fruit tea? Is it's still out there at like maybe Arnold's and some of the meat and threes, but
I think Clearview and Murfreesboro has some fruit tea.
Okay.
Well, it's Clairvaux.
Yeah, but
We might need a fruit tea episode, bud.
I'll make some fruit teas and bring them.
There we go.
That's a shout out.
Come
to
back.
Clearview Cafe in Murfreesboro.
I love it.
Shit.
Yeah, Kenneth's getting excited
They've
now.
been around as long as Prince's.
Fruit tea shots episode. Spring? That'd be great.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You'll have some stuff growing in your garden.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Then you're gonna win.
Yeah.
Can we
some kind of fruity herb.
Can we source from your backyard?
Of course.
Fruit tea is a note we kind of say with home style sometimes. Where you get that that sweet tea, that citrus, that kind of complexity within like just something really easy to drink.
That's how I feel. Yeah, like I feel the same about Attention Please, just like beefed up.
Yeah,
I get a little fruit tea now. I mean, maybe it's just because we're talking about it, but it's fascinating.
There's a lot of hops in this beer, but not overly bitter, and so you get more of that balance of kind of melon and cream tea notes for sure from the hops. It is a plant, so there are going to be similarities within that. But
have you locked into different regions that you feel like you respond to with hops? Is it like, I know that there's Pacific Northwest is just the perfect climate for it. When I was talking
I wonder if that's like a time of year thing too. Like,
when I talked to Jeff Poppin, the Barefoot Farmer, about like growing hops, and I have some of his hops.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a cool dude for sure. And he cut me some root cuttings of his hops that I grow at my house, and it's hard to get like a ton of them. And I was talking to him about like, well, how could I get more hops, and how could I kind of grow them better, and how could I do this? And he just, was completely zen about it. And he was just like, well, hops don't do so well here, and that's just the way it is. And they do really well up there, but up in Washington State, but they can't grow sweet potatoes like we can. We can grow this, and they can grow that, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's not there's not a ton of changing that unless you're gonna be spending money on, I guess, grow houses and things like that, which is coming to Nashville, I'm sure. But yeah, are there regions and places that you've locked into, and seasons? And
definitely, I think with the agricultural product, there's only so much you can do as a farmer, or there's only so much you can do in like fermentation. A lot of it is left to other things happening and already working with your yeast or something like that. But with hops, you have your climate, right? And so when you look at grapes, where do some grapes grow? Where do they not grow? Well, hops work in a very similar way, or they express differently if it's hotter or colder. And so a good bit of our hops, so like Citra, our Citra comes from the Pacific Northwest. A lot of our Mosaic comes from up there. You're looking more the Yakima Valley. There's some really great hops being grown in Michigan right now. So, but yeah, colder climate, it doesn't cook the hops as much, doesn't burn them up, so they yield better, they retain more oil, and I think a lot of our hops come from the Pacific Northwest for our contracts.
That's cool. Yeah.
There's so much innovation up there too with all the farmers. They're literally working night and day to just try and make the best hops and to deliver that flavor and aroma to all the people using them. It's really inspiring. Like, it's so cool to work with hops. Yeah. And then like see the farmers that are growing them and just what they've produced. And I think it's just been elevating with everybody. Sometimes when you put a spotlight on something, it really lifts up that part of the industry. And so it's like when people start using more hops, hop farming's been around for so long, but it's like different styles of hops are now being pushed, or there's more experimentation of new hops being grown. So it's just always something new and fun to get to work on. And
I love it. Well, I think it's time, Kenneth. Can we do some booze news?
Yeah.
All right, the time has come. Chow, chow, chow. Booze news with Kenneth Dedmon. Who's hungry for news?
Man.
I really like the intros.
Kenneth, what's booze-worthy out there?
Shit. Okay.
What is booze-worthy?
I guess we'll start like local news, Nashville news,
and local news.
It's an easy one to like dig on as well.
Easy target. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you both fucking know about it. Like October 29th, in response to a Metro Nashville ordinance, the party bus industry threw a protest entitled "Don't Lose the Booze," a rally.
It's booze newsworthy. Don't lose the booze.
That's Central Nashville news.
A rally to jam up traffic on a Friday morning in order to protest an ordinance that is against them jamming up traffic. Perfect. It's fucking crazy. But some of the big name party buses and pedal taverns that kind of read like shitty Nashville bands that play on Broadway. Hell on Wheels, Nashville Tractor. The Nashville,
Not a lot of innovation
Nashville
with that
Sprocket
name. Nashville
Rocket.
Tractor.
Off the Wagon Tours, and Nashville Party Bars were some of the many party bus slash entertainment vehicles protesting a December 1st ordinance, basically banning alcohol on their vehicles. It's been a long time coming. As a Nashville resident, they've grown in number, and their perimeter has grown as well. I see them all over, kind of like the central loop of I don't know, like a lot of folks consider downtown Nashville just inside the loop of the interstate. I kind of look at it that way as well.
Yep.
I've seen them everywhere inside the loop. Jamming
Yeah, when
up
you start
traffic.
seeing them off 8th, and kind of 8th encroaching into downtown, that's where I'm in the roundabout and there's a fucking tractor with a huge, but it's not a farm tractor. It's a get people fucked up tractor.
Yeah, someone like hanging out the window. I'm not a freaking I'm no Negative Nelly or like a greasy old granny or what you kids call people these days, but
Sometimes, but
there's no fucking way these things are cool. All these guys are like threatening that our tourism industry is gonna crumble because people book airline tickets and make reservations at hotels and restaurants to come to Nashville, the entire vacation culminating in riding around on a school bus wasted. You know what pisses me off about the school buses?
preach.
Paul is like they're slow. I like the pedal taverns. I can understand people do these out of shape people that are powering the motherfucker, but these fucking school buses have a V8 engine in them. They could fucking gun it. When I'm crossing the bridge. These folks
No, they're on a schedule of milking cash out of these people.
I don't even know how the whole thing is. I think it's BYOB. None of them have a traveling beer license or anything that. I think they have to have an on premises something. It's been heavily unregulated for so long.
Right, I don't think it's BYOB.
We did used to have the horse carts,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Like
but
normal
we
cities
didn't have as many horse carts as whatever the hot tub limos and shit like that. That might be something for the breweries to hop on. If they can't be drinking on these things, then perhaps
pit stops.
it could be a travel.
Or you need a little travel logger, the logger limo or something.
I think
don't know,
I think there's going to be some innovation that springs out of this.
Yeah.
All these folks I feel like every month for a good 10 years. I think about 10 years ago was the first time I saw one, a pedal tavern. It was kind of exponential, like a pandemic, I guess. Now that I know about pandemics, I could compare them to that.
Did they start with birds? Was it pedal taverns and birds showed up?
What are birds? The
scooters?
No, pedal taverns.
I feel like the pedal taverns were first.
Taverns were around for a long time because there were companies that were perpetuating the
Segways.
Segways was a big thing.
Yeah.
For a long time, and now all of a sudden Segways aren't cool.
Bro, those things are fun. Those things.
There's so many.
I used to hate on Segways before I saw the birds, before the pedal taverns, before the party buses. And now I'm kind of into them.
Yeah, because there's so much.
Have you ridden one?
Not cool about
No,
it.
never.
Okay, you got to ride one. You don't have to do a tour. Just find somebody with a Segway and go ride one. I think you'll have a different tune.
Are they fun? Because the scooters, I don't know what brand the scooters are now. The Lime
There's
or
a couple of them.
There's a bunch of them.
They're fucking. My wife works in the emergency room. She sees plenty of those. Because they're a little squirrely.
Dude, I've taken one home
I imagine
before. It's
they deal with
6.6 miles.
Oh,
Took me 30 minutes, but there was definitely
no
a
big
thought
deal.
of okay, if I take a lift home, it's going to be $15 and it's going to take me 15,
Was that pre-pandemic or
pre-pandemic.
I just got my first Uber ride.
It's changed.
Post-pandemic, I had my first Uber ride, and it was about double what it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. I guess you can't because it's a ride.
Honestly, dude,
you can't complain.
The difference between
They hike up the prices
Uber
on you.
luxury and the reggae Uber was a lot. Was not much. I mean,
Yeah.
but it used to be a lot. So I ordered what they used to call Uber Black. And I was like, fuck, if it's gonna be this expensive, I'll just fucking tag on like $6.
Yeah, you get an armrest and maybe a leather seat and better stereo system.
It was cool. It was like some dude, real quiet dude in a Range Rover.
Request some Jodeci or Keith Sweat or something. Vibe out on the way home.
Silence. It was the first time that I've had any sort of transportation, not even like a party bus. I haven't done any sort of weird transportation or like normal transportation. Like I haven't been on a flight or anything like that.
People are going nuts a lot.
I'm not
You got anything in the?
I'm not here to be nuts.
You got anything in the going nuts files or what's next?
Yeah. This is nuts. Everyone's running out of shit. Like this week, we were already talking about sourcing and shit, but like Spain's about to run out of rum, whiskey. This is today. Rum, whiskey, gin, vodka. Because of Brexit, like there's kind of like a with the trade problem or like the logistics and distribution problems the world is facing, and Brexit, Spain's almost out of rum, whiskey, gin, and vodka. That's cool.
And they make some cool rum, but they probably don't make enough to sustain the appetite for rum.
Well, I'm sure they have like plenty of wine. They have plenty of shit, but like anyone that like wants to get name brand stuff, it's gonna get weird. It's already weird here, and it's gonna get worse. Like pretty soon. Like this fall, I predict like we'll have some weird supply chain problems. Nothing like everyone like buying all the toilet paper or anything like that. It'll be some stupid shit.
Yeah.
Like
People are gonna have to alter their drinking habits potentially.
I think
Alter their holiday wines.
There's a lot of great products out there. So you
Yeah.
have to like,
dude, I
cultivate variety. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
I was
right.
thinking, Paul, like I was in
That's
Kroger.
good we have Paul here. Paul's like, just drink what you can find and fucking get over it. I have so much beer in these tanks. Just come and drink some. Yeah.
You go to the grocery store.
Go to your local
right before
fucking
they
brewery.
Close. Yeah, you see they're out of something, and
Try something new.
there's something. All the smoke damaged wine grapes in California, they're going to be distilled into brandy so that's coming out too. I just didn't want to talk about it. Like they're making vodkas and brandies out there in California because the grapes went bad, and their insurance sucks because they have shitty insurance, and the insurance companies that they do get.
There's an old saying, luck is in the leftovers. It's cool stuff.
So anyway, like if you're buying brandy, gin, or vodka this coming holiday season, get California's newest high-end
smoky brandy.
I'm sure the smoke will they'll distill the smokiness out of it.
Well, we're carrying a Chardonnay at Audrey that was affected by the smoke and everything, and there's no trace of it. There's no trace of smoke or anything. So there's been some varieties where it wasn't a big deal. I feel like more
Did they
white wines.
stress the fact that they didn't manipulate it too?
I don't know that they did or didn't, but I just know that there's one that we have that was supposedly the area that it was in was affected, but this particular wine was not. And we've got an amazing somm there with an incredible Hall of Fame nose, Jody.
Sure.
I always talk about her Hall of Fame nose because I always want her to smell anything I'm doing or anything I'm tasting. Hey, smell this. But yeah, she doesn't get any of that.
So it was the winery. The winery was affected, but the vineyard that the Chardonnay came from was as well.
No, yeah, the vineyard was affected, but the wine, it didn't come through. It's really not there. It's super clean and it's really nice.
So maybe they're claiming to be affected, like there was smoke, but like
You're so mistrusting.
I'm just saying, like maybe they're
marketing.
They're like, hey, don't come in today because there's too much smoke out here. Like we're not gonna do anything.
Yeah, they're going to cut labor.
Let's play Call of Duty. Like, but like, well, yeah, they said it was affected. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah, they said
That's
it
a
was.
likely
Some people
story.
trust them, but you
there's-
don't.
Dude,
clearly.
there's a whole. I just know that there's a whole like there's a secondary industry in California, in Oregon, some parts of Washington, that like mask smoke in products in similar industries, not the same industry, but
Yeah, okay.
all right.
Yeah, all right. We'll get to that next.
Sounds like
Well, I skipped that
aroma
whole, like-
validation's coming to Audrey.
Yeah, aroma validation. Yes. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what it was called, but now I do. What else is
London.
going on out there? Okay.
At Buckingham Palace.
I've been waiting for you to get back to the Queen.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
we'll
you.
stick to an old standard.
Yeah.
Paul, in case you don't know, it's not all the time.
Yeah, but
Just like Florida, it's not all the time, but we have a trending focus on the royal family.
people like to hear what's going on with the Queen and what she's drinking, how
Yeah,
she's drinking,
you
what's
know,
going
keep me
on
up
with
to
her.
date.
It's just fodder, bar fodder is what we call it. It's
Yep.
like when you're at the pub and you're watching a match, some sort of match.
You hear some
You
things.
talk about the Queen and shit like that. Anyway, Princess Eugenies, who is married to a gentleman named Jack Brookshank. Are you familiar with that name, Mike?
No.
Well, he is the current owner of Casa Amigos Tequila.
Is the dude who bought it
Yeah, yeah.
from the Clunster?
He's, yeah, like basically like a worldwide glorified tequila salesman, amongst other things. Now he's
Doing very well.
he's married into
Yeah, so-
he's married into the royal family.
I was talking to our buddy Tyler Alkins over at Love and Exile Wines recently, talking to about how the new bar is going over there. For our listeners who don't know, the new bar over there is open at Love and Exile Wines off Main Street in East Nashville. They were affected by the tornado pretty heavily and have had to kind of rebuild the whole test.
Affected by the tornado?
Well, I mean, they had their... Okay, let me just be specific
just
then,
kidding.
dickhead. They fucking had their roof blown off by the tornado,
okay,
and their
that's
tasting
affected.
room fucked up.
Hit by the
but-
tornado.
Yeah, they got hit by it.
Yeah.
So they have recently reopened their bar and everything, and was talking to him about like how's the bar doing. Apparently, it's just crushing. But he said that Casamigos tequila has been super popular, and it's like kind of the new Hennessy.
It's real
And that
good.
people are drinking like
It's real
Añejo Casamigos in huge amounts in Nashville.
I can see that. It tastes
Yeah.
like it's tequila that tastes like a vanilla bean.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we've established
Right.
this man
The news. The
and
news.
his marital status and his relationship to Queen Elizabeth, he recently let spill that the Queen has multiple underground tunnels to local bars throughout London. One of name is from the St. James Palace that goes underground to the Duke Hotel, and more specifically the Duke Bar, where it is rumored that the Queen has had her nightly, which the martini. She has her
she'll
nightly
have
martini.
the Dubonnet.
There often, yeah, like that was a lot because we've already covered how much she loves martinis
Yep.
and Dubonnets, and
So what you're telling me is everything from 007 is true in London.
Essentially.
You can get
I mean,
anywhere.
like,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's not far fetched that like land developers will like keep a couple things in their pocket. Like,
That's planning ahead.
dude, you know about the catacombs in Paris and that society down. You watch those YouTube videos and stuff. The catacombs. It's crazy. Like, people. I guess in London, they're like the Queen's in control of the underground and the above ground. It's crazy, yeah. Like Buckingham Palace has something like 800 rooms. So a lot of these were developed over the years as just ways for just the royal family to get around the property really quickly. And
It's just an underground sidewalk.
might as well, yeah. Anyway, that was super fucking cool. And
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
But now she can't drink anymore. Were you going to get into that?
No, she can. There's Casamigos down there.
Okay.
I imagine, to the public, she doesn't drink. But
she's getting fucking into tequila.
She drives a lot.
She's like ditching the Dubonnet.
When she's on their Welsh property, she does her own driving.
Her own driving, right? Yeah, we covered that on an old booze news, on a previous booze news.
All right.
So she's gone from public Dubonnet, public champagne, public semi martini to secret underground tequila. Her drinking habits continue to be an ongoing, fascinating theme on our show.
Well, it's a great distraction from everyone else in her family.
You're right.
I'm tuning in. I got to stay up to date on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, God, I just hope she's with us a lot longer.
Got to get her on the show.
She won't be with us too long.
It's going to be a tough day when we have to do the Queen episode. Liquid Gold Dutch Show.
Maybe
new website.
She owns her own CRISPR, genetic sequence altering device.
I could see her having the ability to stick her brain in the World Wide Web.
So maybe
stay alive that way.
You can imagine her maybe all the science that they've had so far is to just keep you stuck in time where you're at. So even though she's a bajillion years old, she's still stuck maybe 10 years ago at 90 or something. So she'll never age past. I don't think anyone ever does age past 90 anyway. Really,
they just stay that age.
She's the queen. She's a few moves ahead.
Yeah, she's way ahead of us. That's clear.
Okay, in serious news, to round it up, guys. Okay, so if you Google, if you just type into Google or whatever your search engine is these days, if you type Black Irish, you're gonna be faced. Or if you do an image search, it'd be even better because if you type Black Irish, no matter what, Mariah Carey is gonna pop up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. As we exit
that is news.
As we exit the Commonwealth, and into the Republic of Ireland, Mariah Carey, coinciding with the release of her cream liqueur, named Black Irish.
Oh God, I had no idea about this.
An extensive problem.
Not to be confused with.
She is having extensive troubles getting her product released in the Republic of Ireland and the rest of the European Union. It is actually on hold while she.
Is it called Black Irish?
It is called Black Irish. Yes, it is. It is a cream liqueur, an Irish cream liqueur per se, that harkens to her ancestry. Her father. Her father was. A black man, a man of African descent, and her mother had a wee bit of Irish in her. So
I would love to know that I'm related to Mariah Carey.
Homage to her family.
Yeah, probably.
Have you had it yet?
No, not yet. Anyway,
we had our first episode of Shots ever. It was the second episode of Liquid Gold. Was about Irish cream.
Really?
Yeah, we had whiskey cream recipes.
Mariah Carey's company, she's a partner with a gentleman named John Herzog. They both own a place called something called Splashes Beverages, who owns the trademark to Black Irish cream liqueur. They have filed one dispute with Splashes Beverages and 2 disputes with Herzog Holdings against Darker Still Spirits, who holds the trademark name to Black Irish Beverages, which is an Irish-owned beverage brand that has a whiskey named Black Irish that is finished with a stout whiskey. Spokesman for Darker Still Beverages, Richard Ryan, said on Mariah Carey's 3 disputes to their trademarks, you don't assimilate with Irish culture while simultaneously doing everything in your power to damage an actual Irish business.
Wow.
It's
assimilate, though? I mean, she is part Irish. I don't know.
Well, our parents are part Irish.
Yeah, but go on.
Darker Still is guys have been in business for 30 years. They're really fired up. Quite literally, Mr. Ryan said, "We are Irish." So we called it Irish because it is predominantly Irish whiskey.
This is so Irish.
We called it Black Irish because it is black. The liquid is black, and it is Irish. Miss Carey, there's no actual, it's probably just going to play out in litigation. And as far as I know, international trademarks kind of follow the American model if you applied for it, which this brand did in 2015. That probably beats Mariah Carey's August 2021 application. But apparently they're trying to discredit the Irish brand. Speculation dictates that they are.
Wow.
Y'all ever get anything weird with your say you name something that pisses someone off with Bearded Iris or
Nobody's generally pissed off with it. I don't think, I think the biggest confusion is with our name, to where it's people see Bearded Irises everywhere, but it's you don't hear it a ton.
Did you know that there's a bearded iris named Paul Black? Do you know about that whole thing?
No.
Yeah, so this came up when I was Googling some information
It'd
about
be the breeder's name, and he just named it.
Yeah, and they called it Paul Black Bearded Iris. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so you could do a stout in tribute to this guy, the Paul Black. You're I'm Paul, he's Paul Black. This is my stout. Yeah. It's a bearded iris. I don't know.
It's cool in the horticultural world on that, where names come from.
Yeah.
It's there's basically people sciencing the shit out of flowers and creating new color patterns that have never been created before.
Sure.
So sometimes you get names that are award winning, and then they just name it their name to lock that in. When you discover a new animal or a new species, sometimes it's just a riff off the person's name. But with the irises, they're so colorful and so unique to each one that is created, to where the name is an identifier for that. But that's cool. I hadn't seen the Paul Black.
Yeah, there's a Paul Black bearded iris. It's really beautiful. I feel like it's kind of purple.
You brought that up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How did you kind of circle in on that, or zero in on that name of Bearded Iris? Was it?
We're looping back.
Yeah,
we're looping back to news.
That's right. We're professionals.
Yeah, I think me and one of my business partners both grew up in Murfreesboro, and so we wanted kind of a connection to where we're from.
There it is, yeah.
But where we could go. And so bearded irises grow all over the world. They're in Germany, they're in Japan, they're in Iran. They grow everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you go to Oakland High School?
Riverdale and Siegel.
Okay.
Yeah. But wanted kind of a way we came back home. We looked at a lot of places where bearded iris could exist, and we ultimately chose to come back home.
Yeah.
We wanted to be in Nashville. And so kind of wanted a connection to there, but also how our company could grow around the world. Hopefully one day, you got a dream.
Yeah.
So we started digging in, and you dig into the bearded iris and the Horticultural Society for irises. They're just it's wild. There's this blending of art and science. It's just did not know this existed. So then we went deeper, and so all of our beers are named after bearded irises. So Attention Please, Homestyle, those are all irises that have their own color pattern unique to themselves. So
cool.
We borrow from but pay homage to those people that created those irises for our beers to kind of shed light on that. And it's just the digger. We have books going back, so they started categorizing them back in the 20s and 30s, to where they started logging them because they were so unique. So all of our names, come from a flower that has been created or and has its own unique color pattern. So kind of another layer. We don't really put that out there. We wanted kind of layers.
Yeah, you got to peel it away to get that. Yeah. You got to be late in the podcast.
Yeah,
maybe post boosters.
Stick around.
Yes, you never know.
Drop a bomb.
You never know what you might learn.
Yeah, so
It's kind of cool too being in studio. We can like talk at the same time. Remember that was a tough one with the
That's
computer.
why my dad made me watch like the credits at the end
we
of the
couldn't
movies
talk at
and
the same
like
time.
sometimes
It's
you're
really
like
hard.
straight up.
you just haven't shut it off yet. You haven't hit the space bar, when you're on your laptop and it's like still running, and you're just like.
This is kind of amazing about the iris, and this has always fascinated me. So the flavor of violet.
The root.
And the you know all about this, I'm
Oh,
sure.
no.
Yeah, so the one of the ways to get that violet florality of a violet into gin, that's the most common, or amaro or whatever, is to use the root of the iris plant, the orris root. Have you guys ever played around with that into getting like a spring floral violety kind of beer? Or? That's something we should do for the spring.
We've never played in the orris root.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think for an aromatic thing, it is cool in the alcohol world.
Yeah.
Do not go take bearded irises and add them to liquor. But the root is a different piece of that, and is highly aromatic.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think.
So you haven't used it before?
We haven't.
Yeah.
It takes time. There's people that for iris farms in Italy, just for different drinks, will take the root, the orris root, and age it. I think it's 2 years. 2 years minimum, where a lot of them like to do.
After harvesting it?
After harvest. They'll sit for 2 years. It's
I knew I needed to ask you about this. This is amazing.
Are they curing it?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So it evolves. Or
Jesus.
softens. I don't know. I've never.
It takes that long.
I would love to like smell some fresh ones. I haven't dug up.
Yeah,
mine in the yard,
I've
but-
ordered it before and used it, but never dug it up and like tried to.
I dig them up
all in
there
my
up at the
backyard.
Capitol right there.
I was tempted to dig a few up and just maybe in 2 years we'll circle back.
Let's fuck around with it.
Yeah.
They're. I've got some in my front yard. We could probably dig up a little bit. We could take a little root.
But when you dig them up, you're like, man, I liked them there.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So you still have more to experiment with. It never stops in the creative world.
There's always something new that you're inspired from, or that you learn from people, or you're sharing a picture and you learn something new.
Yeah. Just before we go, so they talked about the black Irish, and they're like, well, the stout's black, and that's why we call it that, and we're Irish, which I love. I love all that. But you guys make some amazing stouts there, and that there's a lot of people who are like, dude, they're stouts. Oh my god. There's a gentleman that we worked with at K&K who was just all about your stouts, and he was just like, when you had a stout release or something, he was, it would be like 8:00, and he'd be like, sorry, I gotta go down there and get some stout. He'd just leave the line, go down, get some stout, come back. What makes a stout, just for our listeners, what makes a stout? There's like a roasting of things that happens, but what can you tell us a little bit about what makes a stout for our listeners, but also what is special about your stouts and your whole thinking about that?
I think blending in too on the name, we've definitely been, people are like, oh, Bearded Irish, and it's like, no, it's not Bearded Irish, it's Bearded Iris. But I guess sometimes a little different accents and stuff.
People are so drunk when they come to
Bearded
Nashville.
Iris,
Yeah.
Not Bearded Irish. And stout. What makes a stout is really a lot of darker roasted malts.
Mm-hmm.
So in the kilning process, everything has a certain time when it sprouts, and then how long they roast it for. And some stuff will get roasted more to where it's almost caramelized to a point. And so when you layer in those different malts, they add a lot more characteristics that would be, think of your coffee being roasted. It's taking basically part of a piece of a fruit, the core of a fruit, and roasting it. So you get that sugar caramelizes. That's in malt, that's in your coffee, that's in a lot of things that are roasted. And when you use those and you infuse them in water and you extract that sugar, those carry through. And so a stout is just going to essentially be more roasty, more darker, more caramelized malts, and then cooked down into your stew of the kettle, the wort, and that all condenses and creates something more dessert-like. Because when you're making desserts too, a lot of the times you have things roasted. You're taking nuts, you're roasting them before they go into chocolate that's been already roasted for cacao.
Sure.
So
and it's like using spices. When I made Coca-Cola, I made sure to toast those spices, but you have to get that perfect. You can't overdo it.
So when you see this trend through a lot of things of like roastiness or chocolate, if you look back at what created chocolate, or like, challenge people to go and research chocolate or coffee, or dig into other industries and see like what actually makes those roasty, or what makes it chocolate. And I think a lot at Bearded Iris, our team is very science focused and research based. And so people dig in. When we start using coffee, they're digging in and seeing, how do you make good coffee? And so we're trying to be informed by how you make coffee. Then we'll make a beer that tastes like coffee.
Yeah.
Or kind of looking at cacao or vanilla. How do you make vanilla? Like dig into that. And so you can best express those ingredients in a liquid form. And so it's really...
Then you're in the cooking realm a little bit.
It's very close, you know. A chocolate chip cookie is a hard thing to make.
Sure.
If you're just like...
You go a little too far, not the same.
Still trying to make good chocolate chip cookies. But
yeah. Wow.
I think that thought of just like digging in, researching those ingredients to know how to use them really matters too. Sometimes you can freestyle, but it might not be what you want to be.
Right.
Or what you want to do and showcase.
Yeah. Well, and we can even pull that back to sugar, because when you're caramelizing sugar, that's a delicate process, and you can go too far to where you get like that burnt sugar. And there's like this line where you can use burnt sugar as something cool, where it's like, well, it's got a little bit of bitterness to it, but it's all sugar. So it's like this caramelization, but the burnt quality of it, as long as you have other things going on, you can add that as a bitter element, and then either use all that sugar to sweeten it, or you have to add other sugar to that. And that's that sort of Coca-Cola mystery thing that we were talking about earlier. But you can go too far with it. And is it the same with stouts? Is it like that delicate because when you're like quote unquote burning sugar, or you're caramelizing sugar, it's a delicate process. Is it similar with stouts? Is it delicate to the point that like, you overcooked this and now it's fucking done? Does that happen? Or do you like, this is cool, we can work with this? I don't know.
It's very delicate. Everybody knows when you burn the biscuits,
Yep.
It's, you can taste it. And some people like them that way. But it's overall,
We'd call it French roast.
Yeah, French roast. But overall, when it's burnt. And so it is, when you're brewing stouts, you have a lot more sugar than you typically would in a lower alcohol beer. To get the alcohol, you got to start with a lot of sugar to ferment it down, right? Yep. And so when you basically have candy, and some of the stouts everybody's making these days are like, there's a lot of sugar. It's like very sweet wort. And so if you sear that, depending on the brew house you're using and stuff like that, like if you aren't paying attention, you can over caramelize, and there could be a more roasty quality that you might not have been looking for. But so it's like I said, when we were talking about it's just like lagers, stouts, IPAs, they're all treated differently, but they're definitely nuanced on like a level of you have to pay attention, because like a stout shouldn't be burnt. Yeah. Right? A lager should be clean, or what you're going for, but you still have to pay attention to those notes. But stouts are hard because of all that sugar.
Yeah. Have you ever got there to a happy accident where you're like, this is overcooked, but we figured something out? Like that's happened with isn't that how chocolate chip cookies got invented? It was like a dough that got like cooked too far. Yeah, right?
I would like to learn about chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. I just feel like there's been accidents over time. French fries, maybe one. It's just like this got overcooked. But have you ever had that happen
chocolate chip cookies were invented like the day someone got chocolate chips, dude. They're like, oh, God, they make chocolate chips? Like, take it to Tommy. He makes cookies.
No, actually, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Take him these chocolate chips.
I do believe that it was like chunks of chocolate that fell into the dough, or that was in the dough. And it was after the fact that they were like, oh, my God, these cooked bread cookie things are amazing. And then they realized they needed to have chocolate chips in order to recreate them. Yeah, we'll get you back for that.
Stouts and chocolate chip cookies, I'd say very similar. You should have a stout and eat a chocolate chip cookie.
Have a Beamish and a chocolate chip cookie as opposed to a Guinness and chocolate chip.
Yeah, and Guinness is incredible because you're probably looking at a Guinness and you're like, well, I'm not touching that because that's Guinness. But like, do you ever get the temptation to be like, we should try to make I haven't seen it. But have you tried to make something like lighter on that? Is that playing with fire? Is that like you can't even talk about it kind of thing?
No, I definitely enjoy Guinness.
Yeah.
I like Guinness whenever it's served.
Yeah, right.
We're looping through, but I think overall,
it's Irish Coca-Cola.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Overall, we've made some lighter stouts, kind of playing on that lighter pastry platform of, again, that balance of, still being sweeter like a dessert, but not 10% alcohol, being a little more sessionable. We came out with a beer. We've been doing more blended style stouts. We've come out with 2. We just did one called Executive Decision, where we took a pastry stout with a whole lot of coconut and blended it in some bourbon barrels that had some age from Pinhook and Willet. And so kind of that idea of taking something old and new but in a stout and adding those layers in. So you kind of have something that's been sitting for a while, you get more of that barrel characteristic, then you still have that display of like not aged coconut, like fresh coconut. So you can blend those together and it turns into a really cool flavor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Paul.
I feel like we're
Cool
going to be
fun.
sitting and having some beers and talking some more in the future.
Yeah, I feel like
I hope
right
so.
after this on the back porch. So that maybe that's our follow-up podcast that we need to start, the back porch, where we just finish the episode and then go out on the back porch and keep talking with more beer.
Dude, we can run
More
the-
beer involved.
we
I
can
know
do
you
that
have to
at
go to
my
work.
place, Like,
Fucking Kenneth
just
has to
run
go
the-
to work.
We
Get her
take
face out.
drinks to Husk.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
where
we
we
could
close
do
it
it.
down.
We could do it on their back porch. Paul Vaughn of Bearded Iris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys.
BeardedIrisBrewing.com. They've got the new location at 4101 Charlotte Avenue, where they're serving the Black Dynasty ramen. Our friends from Black Dynasty are making incredible ramen and serving it out of the new Sylvan Supply location at Bearded Iris. And then, as always, go check out their flagship location, 101 Van Buren Street, right there in Germantown. You can go there. That's a great place to drink and play pool. You still got the pool tables?
Oh, it's not going anywhere.
Fucking A. That is a great place to drink. Masters of Stout, Legends of Lager, Perfectionists of Pilsner, and they make me happy with their hops. I don't know. We can share websites now. We've got the new Liquid Gold website. Do check it out, liquidgold.show. You can go there. You can find out a little info about us and mostly info on all our past episodes. There's a lot that we've covered over the years here. We're closing in on 3 years. So shout out to Michael Eads and everyone at We Own This Town. Check out all that We Own This Town has to offer at weownthistown.net. The music show, always a favorite. They've got the new Mom Cult podcast. They've got, I think the Filmography Club podcast is relaunched. So, and it's been great to be back here in studio, getting real and talking beer and all these beautiful, bitter, and sweet notes of life. If you hadn't checked it out yet, go back and check out the Nocino episode where we got to sit back and drink some of Paul's homemade Nocino, the best way to experience it. We will see you next time. For my co-host,
Kenneth Dedmon.
it was a great booze news today. Thank you for updating us on the Queen. We'll have more on the Queen next time because there's a lot going on over there. So we'll probably have to update you on the Queen next time. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
We'll see you next time right here on Liquid Gold.